Hello there. This is Kyle joining you once again for another One More Round review. Joining me is my co-host Sasha, the Great and Terrible. Sorry, I'm skipping the Cannery Brewing One sampler pack for a bit right now to focus on another beer I just got today. Today's been an interesting day in terms of shopping. I was originally going to get a Oktoberfest beer, because Oktoberfest apparently just ended, or is just ending right now, and I didn't even realize that. And then it turns out there was no German beers in the liquor store at all, the private one. BC liquor store had a Oktoberfest beer that was Canadian made. I hated the review. I did so much of it that I may never upload it because it was not very good. So I decided, the one thing I did see was a wheat that was German was a wheat beer, Erdinger. It's the most common wheat beer in the world. So I got that and I was planning on reviewing that as kind of an Oktoberfest thing. The closest thing I could do, right? At least it's Bavarian. And when I got out of the car, the bottle fell. Gone. It's gone. So all I was left with was Shaftebury Brewing Company's 420 Brilliant Lager, and despite the fact it says 420 on there, I don't think there's a single ounce of hemp in there. Certainly not marijuana. It's still illegal here, despite the fact it's not really enforced in any way whatsoever. It's all the way from Kelowna. Apparently it's a division of Fireweed Brewing Corp., which sounds like an unusual name, but, you know, I guess if you're in the 420 thing, having weed in there doesn't sound so bad. For me, it just sounds like you're just making this beer with like fucking garden weeds or something like that. So, I have had this one before. I had it on camping and it had an interesting flavor. I thought it'd be, but you know, I decided to review it under a more formal time right now to see how it really tastes. Because I've already tasted it and I have my own opinion back then. I'm going to try it again and see how it is this time. Alright, first thing you notice is that the logo kind of creeps me out. It's got a Fred bartender there smiling, and his smile's a little unsettling. Like, it's like he's saying, you can't really trust this guy with your beer. You can't really trust this guy with this fucking smug grin he's got. It's like, you look at it, you're thinking, you can just tell he's thinking, just think what I've done with your beer. Like I'm done pissed in it, huh? Something like that. So, already I'm a little bit worried. Anyway, let's not let the box art get in the way of this. Oh dear. Well, that was to be expected. I'm just dropping every beer today, aren't I? Okay, move that to the side for now. Oh, come on. Boy. Let's crack it open. Pour it in. Alright. So, there's no real descriptor on this can of what exactly is in it. It just says hops, malt, water, and yeast. Which, yes, those are the basic ingredients of beer. Again, I don't know why it's called 420 if they're not going to mention it has hemp in it or something like that. There are hemp beers. Hemp is legal. Marijuana is not, but you know, there's plenty of hemp beers out there. They're not uncommon. And if you think you're going to get high off it, think again. Most of the time it just has a bit of a funny flavor. Some of them are good though. Anyway, it looks pretty, it looks like a pretty typical lager. If you told me this, if you asked me to tell whether this is Bud Light or Molson or Coors or Shaftebury, I wouldn't be able to guess whichever one it is. I would think it's a macro. You know, that's a lager, so. Alright, let's see. It's got a bit of a funny smell. Very faint, but it has a bit of a metallic tone to it at the very end. It's kind of unpleasant, but it's not very strong, so it's not as bad as it could be. Alright, let's give it a try. It tastes better than the last time I've had it. Whoa. It just plummeted down my throat like a lead weight. That's not a good sign. There's kind of a funny aftertaste to it. Kind of nutty. It was way worse when I had it camping. Like when I was camping, that aftertaste was like just so prevalent. We came up with all sorts of very disgusting metaphors for what it tasted like. I believe most common was licking a tree that a cougar marked its territory on. That was the common descriptor of it. I don't taste the aftertaste quite so much now, but it's definitely still got a bit of that nutty aftertaste. Oh, it smells really unpleasant the more you smell it. It's like a very subtle metallic scent. It's actually worse than the flavor right now. The flavor is actually not good, not okay. It's just whatever. It's somewhat bad, but the scent is just metallic. I'm like kind of worried I might get like botulism from this one like that. Yeah, so it's not a good beer. I knew that when I was going to try it, of course. I've had it before. But it is better than the last time I had it, where there was just this nasty, nasty flavor, aftertaste to it, that half of us just almost got sick off of. It is cheap, though. It's $17 for 15 cans. I do remember when I had it camping, it also came with 3 of their cream ales, which came in the blue cans. And those were better, if I recall, but I think by the time we got to those, we were all drunk, so memory may be hazy. This is still something I would not buy again, and if I'm gonna go camping and buying cheap beer, I'd buy Caribou. That's always reliable. They're cheap. They're, they're factory. They're basically macros in a micro brewery, but they do taste pretty good for what they are. I prefer them to like Molson, normal macros. I'm not a craft beer snob, unlike with my reviews state. I'm not like one of those guys who if there's only Molson or Coors at a bar, I'm just gonna like throw a big fit. I'll drink cheap macros. I'll drink macros. I can enjoy a good cold macro lager on a hot day. This is not a good macro lager. This is kind of disgusting, kind of skunky. If you really wanted a cheap beer, if you really want to go really cheap, like cheaper than Caribou, I'd even take Iron Horse over that. Iron Horse is that really cheap malt liquor made in Vancouver. I'd take that over this. And that stuff has like no flavor except for a little tiny bit of malt. But this is just unpleasant, and the smell is honestly the worst. It's not even a strong smell, but it's just such a subtle, nasty flavor. Yeah, this is not a good beer. Anyway, that's all for today.